From the center of the universe, now in its 7th season covering your 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts, it's the X's and Argos podcast with Argos color analyst Ben Grant and Coach JB.
Welcome to the X's and Argos pregame walkthrough brought to you by Something in the Water Brewing. My name's Ben Grant, joined as always by JB, and we're here to get you set for Doege's double blue debut as the Argos are hoping the third time's a charm against the visiting Alouettes, having dropped the first two against Montreal this season. Today we're going to talk about Coach Dinwiddie's post-game actions, post-game comments following Toronto's last-second win against Edmonton. And we'll also look at the decision to start Jarret Doege this week, what it means for Nick Arbuckle, what it means for Chad Kelly, what it means for the rest of the Argos season going forward. And the Toronto Argonauts have signed a bunch of new players, 3 Americans, a receiver, an O lineman, a safety, and we'll go through those guys, what we see, who's for this year, who might be for next year, and of course we've got all of our usual stuff, pick six, game preview, injury report, OCDC, one thing, put me down for 20, challenge flag, and our ticket giveaway. All that and more coming up on this episode of the X's and Argos podcast. JB, it's almost here. The grand reopening, the reintroduction of Something in the Water Brewing. You know, if you've been by lately, there's been some construction going on. They've been open throughout. They've been, still happy to have you in, and they're going to be happy to have you in this Friday pregame before the Montreal-Toronto game. But you can see a lot has been in the works. Well, the grand opening is coming up September 27th, and you will finally get to experience Ghost Taco and all the wonderful beer from Something in the Water Brewing. Longboat is always the go-to for Argos fans, the beer that was made for fans of the Double Blue. They got a bunch of other stuff that you can try if you're looking for something new. Laguna Veneta Coastal Italian Pilsner. This is 5.5% alcohol, brewed with malt grown on the Adriatic coast of Italy. And so that's a pretty fun one you want to try. Graffiti on a Passing Train's one I've told you about before. This one comes in hot at 7.2%. West Coast IPA, Simcoe hops. It's another fantastic choice. But if you want to go longboat, you want to go like JB, the Farm to Glass Pilsner is always an excellent choice too. Get down to Something in the Water Brewing pregame Friday night before the Alouettes come into town to take on the Toronto Argonauts. Okay, JB, let's get into this. I think maybe we need to recap what happened post-game, because not everybody saw it. Like half the people that I ran into this week were doing impressions of Coach Dinwiddie and the high kick in front of the Edmonton bench, and the other half had no idea that this had happened and didn't know what they'd missed out on. So just to kind of recap, this is what I saw as we were getting into the early stages of the post-game show after the game last week. So after the game, Coach Dinwiddie and all the players sort of went onto the field towards Liam Hajrullahu and company, who just kicked the game-winning field goal. And as he went by the Elks bench, Coach Dinwiddie did a couple of pretty aggressive and very flexible high kicks. I would definitely have torn my hamstring with a high kick like that. It was something. And he seemed to get into an exchange of words with the Elks bench. I couldn't make out who exactly. And then it looked like things were starting to heat up. Mark Killam took a few steps towards him. Now he and Mark go back, and I think they're pretty close, but they didn't look like it at that moment. And then I saw Kevin Mittal come in and kind of walk Coach Dinwiddie away. So those were the actions that I saw, and then post game the comments. What I love. Coach Dinwiddie is the most honest coach in the CFL. He will always tell you, he doesn't have coach speak. He just tells you what he thinks. He tells you what he sees. You always get a straight answer from him. And he didn't disappoint here. He said, he was asked about Mark Killam, and he said, it had nothing to do with Mark. There's a pretender that's not in our building anymore that was chirping all game personally to me. And there's a coach that was chirping, very personal. I took offense. I knew that was my plan. Once we put them away, those guys can enjoy the off season. All right, to you first, JB. What do you make of Coach's actions and comments?
Well, I mean, look, I got to admit, I like it. I thought it was pretty funny. I thought he was fired up. It was a game that they stole from Edmonton. I'm sure Edmonton was riding that bench the whole game because they were kind of feeling themselves, having been on a bit of an upswing. It's nice. Then, the Toronto are the defending champs, and, they have some ex-Argos, and I'm sure that they were letting Toronto know how nice it was to beat them in their home field. And coach is a passionate guy, and I don't think he would do it very often. But it strikes me that, that I take him at his word. I think that probably some of the trash talk was personal, and he got fired up about it and was, letting them know that they suck, and they have for a long time, and looks like they will continue into the near future.
So from people I talked to that were sitting close to the benches, they confirmed, they said that yes, Edmonton was talking a lot throughout the course of the game. Now, I have a problem still with both benches being on the same sideline. I hate that in some of the East stadiums. I know why. It's for signage. That's why you see it in the East. But like in the West, where you've got benches on the opposite sides, you don't have altercations like this. You don't have interactions like this. There is no chirping during the game between benches. Like there's not a lot of space separating those two benches. So it's surprising really that this doesn't happen more often, that it's not more of a problem. In terms of Coach Dinwiddie's reaction, so I feel two ways about it. First of all, it's not at all my style as a coach. I'm pretty chill during, after, before games. You won't get much reaction out of me on the bench. I've never walked in front of an opposing team's bench making gestures or anything like that. That's just not my style. That's not how I am. Coach Dinwiddie, I think, is very clever about when he shows his emotions, because he doesn't always. There's some games where Toronto's been beaten badly, and you expect Coach Dinwiddie, well, man, he's going to blow up, and he doesn't. He takes it in stride. He's calm and very logical and rational. He said, well, why? How come sometimes then he loses his mind after some losses, and he's fine after others? And I think he's got a very good pulse on the team, and I think he needs to. I think he's good at knowing when to show emotion. We talked about it with some of his post-game rants earlier in the season. Like 2 times this year, he blew up at the team, and it worked both times. They came back and won the games after that. So he does seem to time that well. And here's a situation it's almost a bit of closure. Like he had talked before about pretenders in the building. He talked about not enough dogs on the team, and I think here. There's speculation that he was calling out Williams and that Coach Maxey was one of the players they were talking to. I don't know. There's logic to that. That makes sense based on the comments, but I don't know if that's where it was actually directed or not. I think that this sort of seeing that kind of level of emotion from the coach reinforces to the players, like, this is a man that believes, and he's got our backs, and he believes strongly in his message, and he believes in us as a team that we're going to go and get back in this thing and go win a championship. I think that's what they see from his behavior. I don't think they see what's wrong with coach. I don't think they, some of the social media comments this week, people saying that he should get let go. Like I don't know. That was an extreme overreaction for a guy that's won 2 Grey Cups in the last 3 years. Yeah, I didn't really get that, but overall, I like Coach Dinwiddie's comments. It's not me, but how would you defend? I'll turn back to you, JB. How do you defend actions like this if you're also asking for discipline from your team, because you're looking to avoid penalties, you're looking to avoid reactions, outbursts like that from players? So how can you stand there and demand that when you yourself are getting demonstrative after a game?
I mean, I think I would handle it. I mean, it's obviously the kind of thing you can only really do once a season. I would imagine that coach probably. I mean, I don't know. I would guess maybe coach apologized to the team for kind of losing his cool. But I would guess that the team liked to see that level of passion from him. It was after the game. It wasn't going to cause a penalty. It wasn't going to affect the gameplay. Sometimes you got to be, it's like when you have a player, you want them to be under control, but sometimes, you need that blue flame. You need that dog. Sometimes you got to take a penalty. Sometimes you have to do something stupid, and you just have to be able to not have that constantly. But at the end of the day, you can't win football games with nice guys. You can have a couple, but you can't have 40. You need some guys who are not necessarily sportsman of the year to win football games. So I think there's a bit of that there. Like you need to show that dog a little bit, and I think that's what he did.
Have you ever lost your cool on the bench as a coach, JB?
When I was younger, I was far more likely to engage in back and forth talk. I think as I've coached more and more, I have become a little more calm about things. I don't kind of ride the roller coaster where when I first started coaching, I would have great highs and great lows and rage and joy, and you become a little bit more zen about it all because you've seen it all. So I think that I'm a little calmer, but yeah, I've lost it a time or two.
I had a positional coach once show me our film after a championship game, and I didn't know what he was showing me. I thought he wanted to show me a play. He's like, watch this, and he's like, watch yourself. I'm like, watch myself. And you could see me on the sideline on the bench, and the championship game ends, our team erupts, everyone storms the field, there's celebration, and he's like, what are you doing right now? What I was doing was I was trying to fix the knot in the drawstring of my pants. That was what I was doing. And I think that's just sums up my coaching. I just don't, I don't get too heated. I sort of stay even keel. I was happy. It was great. We won the championship. That's awesome. But I was pretty concerned that I had turned my drawstring into a double knot, and I wanted to fix that before I forgot about it.
Very offensive coach of you.
Yeah.
I bet you the players loved Coach Dinwiddie a little bit. Just a little bit. So, a little showing some of that. Something that's a little more defensive roomish. On the defensive side of the ball, we play with live ammo. We don't get take after take and try after try. We actually play every down counts. So the defensive side tends to be a little more fired up about things.
I guarantee the players liked it. I guarantee that meant something, and I think, I think Coach, backed up what he was asking for. He was asked for people that in the building who cared. People who want to be there, people who want to fight, want to win. And you can see that passion from him. He's an intense guy, and the players know that. And I think to see it in that moment, I think that's a positive. I think that goes a long way to building something here with this Argos team. All right, let's talk about the quarterback situation, JB. This may be a little bit of a surprise, maybe not much. Like Coach Dinwiddie suggested pretty strongly after the game that this was the direction they were going to be going in. And by that, I mean starting Jarret Doege, not activating Chad Kelly. I think a lot of people, myself included, thought there was a real chance that with Nick Arbuckle injured, that maybe Chad Kelly would be activated, that he would get the first team reps this week, and that he would make his return, a tough one against the Montreal Alouettes. But instead, Chad Kelly remains on the 6-game injured list. Nick Arbuckle is... He didn't practice this week with a calf injury. He's been projected as being out for a few weeks. What do you make of this situation? Not activating Chad, putting Arbuckle on the shelf for maybe a couple of games, and giving the keys to Jarret Doege, a guy that doesn't have a ton of experience in the CFL.
Yeah, look, it's a little worrying. Coach has shown the ability to coach up players. And I thought there were moments in preseason where he made some nice throws, but it is worrying. Montreal's defense is ferocious. It is not a lot of time to get up to speed.
It's not. Does this suggest, I know you've been saying the whole season that we may not see Chad Kelly. Does this just confirm that for you, that if you're not bringing him back now, then you're not bringing him back?
No, right. I mean, I just think that the injury has been not progressing the way they wanted, and that usually means an extended period of time. I just think that I don't know what the medical information is, but if the rehab is not going as well as it should, I think that becomes a significant time, right? It's not like if you're on track, you're ready to go. And if you're not on track, it's not like, oh, well, you'll be 1 week later. No, you're on a different path. You're on the 6 months later path. So that's what struck me as probably what's there. And I think obviously, if he were close, he would be playing. I think it suggests that he is not close to playing
The thing that
because they're in a playoff run here. Like I really do think. I think if he were 85%, I think they would play him. I really do. I think these games are huge. But he obviously must be below that.
I guess so. Like what strikes me is odd, and this is where, and this is the battle I've been having all season long, really, which is I think he looks really good. Like when I've watched him in practice or when I've watched him rehabbing and doing drills, I think he's looked almost like himself, not fully himself. You can tell that there's still a little something, but it doesn't look like much. Like he's throwing the ball extremely well. He's firing the football well. He looks like he's got full power in his legs as part of his throwing mechanism. You can sometimes see now. I haven't noticed it all lately, but I know like back in August when I thought like he looks ready to go, but there were some, he obviously still wasn't activated yet. I thought, yes, at that time there was maybe just a little bit, just a tiny glimpse of a limp that he had still in his step. And Coach Dinwiddie, knowing that this is the most valuable asset that the team has on the roster, he has been very conservative with bringing guys back from injury, even in important games, even in Grey Cups. We've talked about it on past episodes, like when he's had offensive linemen, like great offensive linemen that are knocked out for long-term injuries. They look great on the practice field, but he waited. He didn't bring them back and made sure he had them healthy for the following season. So it does. I have a lot of respect for that. For one, I don't know how patient I would be in this situation, but you look at what Coach Dinwiddie's been able to do. No wonder he has confidence in just saying, "Well, we'll just let Jarret Doege go with it." It's worked really well for him. Like this is how Dinwiddie first jumped onto the scene as a coach, was with the emergence of Nick Arbuckle when Bo Levi Mitchell went down in Calgary, and this guy no one had heard of, and Arbuckle came out and looked amazing over a course of like 8 games or whatever it was. And then Dinwiddie came to Toronto, and Arbuckle was supposed to be the guy. Suddenly McLeod Bethel-Thompson came in, and I was like, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, that guy's been all over the place. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can put a season together like this, and he looked great, and he got probably the best out of Arbuckle there too. And then he got Cameron Dukes to look like a world beater for several weeks, and then look what he's done with Arbuckle this year. Look what he did with Chad Kelly. Now that's slightly different. Chad Kelly's pedigree obviously is different, but he's got every quarterback that he's had to play their best football, and so why can't Coach Dinwiddie get Jarret Doege to look better than anyone else has been able to make him look?
Well, I think that's possible. I just think, 4 days of practice is a lot. But there is something to be said for, you see it in sports all the time. Sometimes a guy goes down and it raises the intensity of everybody else because everybody knows that they need to contribute at a higher rate. Because the person driving or the star is missing, so that happens. I mean, that's not an uncommon sports phenomenon. And sometimes with a young quarterback, your first game is your best shot because people don't have a lot of film, and you put in a relatively simple game plan. And sometimes simple game, coaches sometimes forget that a simple game plan can be very successful. So yeah, I think there's definitely a potential that the game plan is kind of straightforward, but what a terrible matchup. I mean, Montreal is just so good defensively, despite Saskatchewan putting up points. Like when they're healthy, yeah, I don't love this matchup for his first game.
I don't love it either, although I wouldn't have liked it for Chad's return either. Like you talk about walking right back into the fire, that would have been tough. But for Doege, like what I like about the Doege situation, if you don't know anything about Jarret Doege, I can give you a little bit of background on him. So Doege has been in the league now for a few years. 2023 was when he got most of his playing time. And that's actually when the Argos first saw him. He had 3 games in which he had action in 2023. His best outing was actually in relief against Toronto. He came in midway through the game, ended up going 9 of 11 for 163, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. His career stats, although limited, are pretty good for someone with very brief experience, just like a couple starts in there. 33 of 46 for 628, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He does push the ball downfield. And I think that is exciting. But I think maybe bigger than anything else, and why I trust him in this scenario, especially with Coach Dinwiddie in his ear, he makes really good decisions. You look back throughout his time in college, throughout his time in the pros, he hasn't made dumb decisions. He hasn't made those rookie quarterback throws. He went all over the place in university, Bowling Green, West Virginia, Troy. Every single season, his touchdown interception ratio is amazing. Even as a freshman, when he got in, he still had like a 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He actually, his rookie season, he had Ryan Hunter protecting his blind side at Bowling Green, which is kind of cool. I love when that sort of stuff comes up. But yeah, he's been around the CFL now for like 3 straight solid years. He's had all season long in this system. He's been getting reps, and now, of course, the starter reps got game time last week. And Montreal doesn't have a ton of film on him. They can't make a game plan the way that you could have game planned for Chad Kelly, for Nick Arbuckle. This is a little bit different. And I can guarantee you, as good as Montreal's defense is, there's no way they're coming to this excited that they're playing Jarret Doege, because you hate playing against, how many times, JB, have you seen a team go up against a quarterback they weren't expecting to see and just have it go absolutely sideways? What makes it so tough to prepare for a guy that you don't have film on, like Jarret Doege?
Yeah, you don't. I mean, every quarterback has their strengths and their tendencies. When you don't have a lot of film on somebody, you can prepare sort of standard fundamental football defense, but sometimes guys can surprise you with the strength of their arm, with the speed of the release. Guys can catch you with how well they run, in terms of breaking the pocket. So there is a bit of that where you don't necessarily know what his favorite throws are, or what throws he is better at than not. They have college film, and it's not that there's not film on him. He's not the mystery man, but it is a little harder. That first game you play actually is usually your best shot for a game. In some ways, I'd be a little more scared about his second game.
Yeah.
To an extent, but at the end of the day, what's hard for him, he does have a fantastic wide receiver group. So he has that in his favor. Obviously, that's helped Arbuckle a great deal too. But to have, to not really have any running game, it puts a lot on him. He's, I hope that they plan on running him a little more. Try and do those option plays they were running with Arbuckle at the beginning, maybe that can give Toronto some fits.
He's not
Montreal
fast.
Some fits. Sorry.
Yeah, he's pretty slow.
You don't have to be that fast on those options.
He's faster than Arbuckle.
Yeah, you don't have to be that fast. I mean, if they're crashing, right? I mean, you're only looking for 5 yards.
Yeah, that's actually part of my game plan. We'll get to that when we get to OCDC, but I do think you can and I think he actually moves better than his pro day testing would lead you to believe. I think he ran like a 4.95 or something like that pro days. It wasn't exactly blazing speed, but I think he actually moves better in the pocket. He looks faster than that. I was surprised when I looked up his testing numbers at what they were. But I think, this is if you're going to play a new starter against the Montreal Alouettes, it is better to do it like this than have him go into a second game where they got a full game of film on him and they can really break down and attack the stuff that makes him vulnerable. So I'm interested to see how this one goes. All right, JB, 3 transactions this week, all American signings. This time of year is usually when they will bring in some new guys, sometimes signing to futures contracts and stuff like that. We saw Sluka was one of the guys they brought in last year at this time. Sometimes it's for the stretch run. Sometimes it's for next season. With these 3 guys, there's one guy I think really has a chance to get in a game soon, and that's offensive lineman Josh Donovan. So Donovan was a Montreal Alouette, played last year with the Alouettes. I went back and watched the first Montreal-Toronto game from last season. Montreal was off to that hot start. He was playing the right tackle spot. Just wanted to see, like, what did he do against Robbie Smith, against Derek Parrish, guys that I can really quantify well. I was really impressed with his play. I thought he, in general, had a very good season last year. I gather from 3 Down Nation's reporting, he was cut at the end of camp this year because he wasn't able to pass a physical in May. And so I think that's probably why the team decided to move on. Well, I think that's definitely why the team decided to move on from him. But yeah, he's got a Grey Cup under his belt. He's got starts in Montreal. He's got effective play, 6'6", 330. It's a bit weird with him because usually he played guard all through college. Like, he wasn't ever a tackle. And then suddenly in the CFL, he's a tackle. Usually it goes the other way around, where you're a tackle throughout your college career and then you go somewhere else and you sort of skinny down into the guard spot. But yeah, and we've seen that for, like, Dejon Allen, I guess, was a little bit like that too. University of Arizona guy. I'm excited to see what he can do. Of all these 3 guys, he's the one I could see getting into a game down the stretch. Not a lot of teams dress Canadian tackles. And with that right tackle spot, if you're looking maybe to get Ryan Hunter back to the guard spot, or if you want to experiment a little bit with putting him in at left tackle, like, you could certainly try that. I think he may appear sooner rather than later. And the other 2 guys, I think, are lottery tickets, guys that we want to bring in. You've got Tyler Common. He just got cut by the Colts, was one of the final cuts. He's an Emporia State guy, D2 guy with good speed, good size, 6'3", 206, runs well. My favorite thing about him, just watching a little bit of his film, is fearless, like absolutely fearless over the middle. Reminds me of, like, a more skilled Kevin Sklersius, like that kind of guy that just doesn't even notice that there's traffic in the middle of the field. And then finally, Nick Toomer, DB, again, good size, speed numbers, 4.5, ran a 7-second 3-cone, 6'2", 200. Just a guy that was really involved in Indiana, was at Stanford before that. I always liked Stanford players, and just found a way to get his hands dirty, got in on every play. So those guys, I think, we're probably more likely to see next season, but Donovan maybe this year. JB, you're always in favor of churning the roster and seeing what you can find. Any chance they may have hit lightning in a bottle with one of these guys?
I don't know about lightning. Maybe lightning's probably like maybe some delicious cookies in a bottle. Right. I love that signing. I think the offensive lineman, has the potential to be to be really good. I mean, look, he played for Montreal the whole season. I think that's at this point of the season, that's a fantastic pickup. Obviously, or hopefully he's in better playing shape, but to bring him in to be part of the depth chart, I think is encouraging. I mean, it's a little surprising. He didn't have a lot of league interest, but maybe he did and he turned it down, but it doesn't seem to. But yeah, I do like that. I do like that signing. I think that could turn out to be something.
The lack of league interest, could be just because he's a Canadian tackle, he's an American tackle. Sorry, I'm getting myself all turned into a knot here. That doesn't make sense. No, yes, he's an American tackle, so that wouldn't be why other teams have ignored him. But I think a lot of teams do have their guys set. They know where they're going with everybody, and he maybe looks at Toronto's roster and is like, well, I think I might be able to get on the field there. You look at the last depth chart. They got one guy on the depth chart last week that was a starter in week 1 of the season. That was Ryan Hunter at right tackle, and he's been hit by a car this season. There's been a constant turnover.
Sorry, I mean, I don't mean to laugh. It just, every time you say it, it sounds bizarre. It's just not your traditional.
Well, not only that, the fact that
but I don't mean to be glib about it. Obviously, no, that's terrible. I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah, no, of course, but the fact that Berryhill also got hit by a car in BC, it was just a weird. I've never heard of that happening before, and have it twice in a season. And thank goodness both guys are okay. And I love the fact that Hunter came back as an offensive lineman in less time than was predicted, and is playing at the level he's playing at is pretty awesome. But yeah, back to Donovan. I don't know why. Other teams have passed on him, but I think, for he and his agent, they see like, yeah, this is a place where you could really rejuvenate your career. And he's a pretty young guy still, so he's potentially got a long CFL career ahead of him. All right, Pick Six, JB. Pick Six is brought to you by Something in the Water Brewing. You can look for the prompt every week and ask us a question to win free beer. If you follow me at Ben_Grant on Twitter or on Blue Sky at Coach Ben Grant, look for the prompt every week. When I ask you for your Argos questions, submit them. And if we answer yours on the podcast, you win a 6-pack of beer, courtesy of Something in the Water Brewing. Our winner this week is Laura the Ladybug, who has given us the following question, JB. So Laura, you've won a 6-pack of beer from Something in the Water. JB, here's the question. Given the coach's challenge and potential challenges last game, I'm wondering what the process is for a coach's challenge. Who makes the call to challenge? What information is available to them before they throw the flag? So I'll break this down first, then I'm going to turn it over to you with a bit of a follow-up, JB. The way this works, so Coach Dinwiddie is ultimately the one with the flag. He's got it in his back pocket, and he's got his one challenge, if things go poorly, to be able to throw at any point during the game. And in the CFL, you can challenge almost everything. Not quite everything, but almost everything, unlike the NFL, where you can't challenge penalties and things like that. So he's got that flag, but he's also got his headset with his guys in the booth who have access to replays and have access to a better vantage point. So most of the time, the challenge will come from upstairs. Well, they'll have a chance to look at a replay and say, yeah, you got to throw this flag. We're definitely right. We see the pass interference or whatever it was. You got to throw the flag. Sometimes Dinwiddie has just thrown it before he's heard anything, where the plays happen right in front of him. And he's like, I saw this. Like, I saw this with my own eyes. I know that was PI. And he immediately reaches in and throws the challenge flag. But most of the time, there's a delay. And his guys have a chance to look through it. You can throw it any time before the snap of the ball. So when the other team has the ball, you don't necessarily get a long time. When you've got the ball, you can slow it down and have a chance to look at replays. You'll see sometimes guys will even come over to him with a tablet to say, hey, you can look at this yourself. We don't need to challenge this immediately. And so in that case, he might have a more informed opinion where he's actually got access to a video replay. And sometimes it's just on the scoreboard. You see it being replayed for everybody in the stadium. You look up and you're like, that guy was like 7 yards offside. I got to throw this flag. So that's how the process works. JB, why do so many teams get it wrong? Like Coach Dinwiddie's record on challenges has been terrible in his time as a head coach. But most coaches are struggling pretty badly this season. I would love to hear your thought on why that is.
Well, I'm trying not to say anything too spicy here. Why is that? I think that there are a lot of calls that are judgment calls. You know, the Canadian Football League has the ability to challenge things which are more sort of judgment calls, which makes it tough. There are a lot of rules that are not followed strictly to the rule. And that's how they're always called. And the league is not about to start a precedent about, well, if I put my hand on his hip, is that going to be PI every time? Then, of course, then you have to live by that. So sometimes the rule is not the rule. So that makes it hard. Sometimes you see it, but the camera angles are not as good because you don't have as many cameras. So your angle is not captured on film. Back to kind of the transparency. It's hard. It's hard to know what the decisions coming from the replay booth are, because there doesn't, not to be too critical, but it does seem a little all over the place as to just watching. I'll be damned if I can guess what they're going to do. So if that's the case, then that makes it really hard, which is, again, why I think you and I both feel most plays should not be challenged, because you're just not going to get the call that you want. So you really have to wait for something drastic and obvious. And that may be what they want coaches to do. So in the end, I think coaches are a little too quick on the trigger finger and should wait for something that is so obvious that there can be no doubt. And you still might not get it, but I think there's a higher percentage.
I think the answer is you need to have like my mom in the booth. My mom does not know very much about football. She tries to follow. She listens to my broadcasts and listens to this podcast, but has a lot of questions, a lot of sort of entry level questions. I think if she sees it, you should throw your flag. If she says, "Hey, wasn't that a fumble?" throw your flag. But if it's where you have to really look and go frame by frame, even if you're right, it's just not going to happen. It's got to be clear to everybody.
Watch it exactly. If you have to watch it in slow motion, don't challenge it. If you watch it at regular speed and it's clearly what you think it is, then go ahead.
And I think the CFL has I think they've tightened up on it. Like I feel like they used to really go more by the letter of the law. And we saw a lot of coaches winning challenges. Now, like it has to be super clear. And if it's not, there's like, no, we're not going to overturn this. It's just not. It's too tight. So and so with that being the case, you've got to be very careful. And I think with Laura's question this week, she's talking about not being able to challenge that pass interference late in the game where Herslow's running down the field. He's getting grabbed by the collar. It wasn't called because he's kind of turned to the inside. The official closest is behind Herslow, can't see it. If Dinwiddie had challenged that, they would have won. I think there's no question about that. It was very obvious pass interference, but he didn't have his challenge left because he challenged a ball spot earlier in the game. And you and I have talked about this before, like ball spot is always death for challenges. Like unless you can fully see a clear football that is like a yard beyond where it was spotted, don't challenge the spot because those never seem to get changed. They just don't. And especially if it's in a pile like Spencer Brown's was, he got turned around, couldn't quite see where the ball was. Physics tells you he must have got the first down. But if you can't see it clearly, you're never going to win that. And even though that was an important moment in the game, I think that's probably a case where you've got to just put your flag back in your pocket and don't throw that one. It's time for OCDC. For OCDC, JB will handle the defense. I'll handle the offense. We will start with the Montreal Alouettes. JB, you are the Alouettes defensive coordinator. How are you going into this game against a bit of an unknown in Jarret Doege?
I think you just have to go back to your fundamentals, and not try and be, you're definitely going to attack more. But I think you just defensively just play good fundamental man coverage, cover 3, cover 4, and get a sense in that first half of what he likes to do. So I would bet you probably, are going to see a few tricks. They're going to see if they can confuse him in that backfield, so you can kind of pull out a few things, and they're going to rush after him a little more. But I think that first half, they're probably going to just kind of get a sense of, what he can do and what he can't do.
For me, on the offensive side of the ball for the Montreal Alouettes, my worry here, if I'm Montreal, like McLeod Bethel-Thompson was amazing last week. He was awesome. A lot of that was to Philpott, and I want to kind of talk about the dangers of that. He was PFF's player of the week last week. His stats were ridiculous too. It was like 20 of 26 for like 380 or something like that, 3 touchdowns. But a lot of it was Philpott. They had a situation that they felt they could exploit, and they did. Kerfala Exume, who we know well from his time with the Argos, was kind of hung out to dry as a corner, and Philpott ate him alive. And it's not fair to Exume. That's not his thing. Like, he's an amazing special teams ace. He's never really been a starting corner. That's not what he does well. It's not why he's a CFL player. So I hated that for him, because I think that tarnishes his name a little bit, and he is an outstanding CFL player. And so I hated to see that. But that was the right thing to do for Montreal. They found a weakness there. They're like, look at this, man. If we can line up Philpott against Exume, then yeah, we're gonna tear it up. So that's what they did. I think Montreal has to be careful this week and not lock in, because Toronto's going to be paying extra attention to him, and whether that's Delonte Hood in the corner, or whether that's Benji Franklin out there, there's going to be help. They're going to find a way to move coverage over to Philpott. And so you've got to take advantage of that. So McLeod has to be smart with it. He has to resist that temptation, because it's going to be there. He's going to want to throw it to Philpott, and he's got to find his moments. but also use that as a distraction. Look towards him and then cut back across the field. If you get the safety to vacate their space, go back the other way. He's got a lot of talented receivers that he can go to. I know they're not at full health right now, Montreal, but I feel like that's a solid passing game plan. And then you got to rely on the run like they did last week as well. They got some great running places that weren't expected, like with the injury to Tice too. That Scott was that was interesting to watch. And I think they've got to rely heavily on that run. Don't leave it all up to McLeod. Don't have him throw 45 passes in this game. Have a balanced attack and play that quick game. Force McLeod to get the ball out early, because I think that when he's in rhythm, he's at his best. He's not taking sacks. He's not getting thrown off his game. All right, JB, over to the good guys. What is your defensive plan? How do you stop Tyson Philpott? How do you stop McLeod Bethel-Thompson? How do you stop these Alouettes?
That's a great question. They're a hard team to prepare for because the film is so all over the place. Like, different quarterbacks, and so it's hard to get a real beat on what they do with McLeod. If you use that last game, clearly you need a starting CFL defensive back covering Philpott. I think you have to begin with that. He's a good player, but you can't let him destroy you. I wouldn't necessarily double him. I think you can get away with single there, maybe double occasionally on an obvious passing down, but I don't think you should have the same problems on that. But he can't. You might have to switch. He can be really dangerous. I think for stopping Montreal, you're looking again to stop McLeod passing. Montreal is not that good an offensive team without their starting quarterback. They don't run particularly well. They pass okay, but they're not a powerhouse offensive team. So it's not a team that you should. I know Saskatchewan's like, oh yeah, but really they're not a team, like, statistically, that you should be worried about being in a track meet with. They are definitely more of a rock fight team. So I think you just have to keep McLeod's deep passes under control. Don't let him air out his arm. He's got an incredibly strong arm. You might bait him into a couple of those cross-field outs that he loves. You definitely want to get after him as much as possible. Try and get him off his spot in terms of making bad decisions. But the defense has to be a pass-first defense. I don't think you're worried about the run here. You want to keep that deep umbrella as much as you can and force McLeod to dink and dunk it down the field.
Yeah, I like that. I like that plan a lot. Switching over to Toronto's offense, I think you got to show new stuff. Take advantage of the fact that Montreal really doesn't know what's coming. I think you have to assume there's going to be heat. I think Montreal is going to blitz a lot. They're going to look to catch Doege out, try and force him into making a mistake. So you have to have that quick game ready to go. I don't know enough about Doege's ability when it comes to RPOs. I haven't really seen him do very much of that stuff. That would, to me, be a natural go-to here, but I don't know enough to say that would be a good plan. I do think you get receiver screens going. I do think you're going to have to occasionally air it out to stretch the defense a bit. But most of all, I want to see concepts that the Alouettes haven't seen the Argos run this year. I know they've got them. They've got tons of plays that they rep every week. Most weeks they prepare specific things that they never get a chance to get into a game. That's the stuff that I want to see Doege unleash this week. Stuff that he's practiced, stuff that he's repped in practice and feels comfortable with, maybe even for weeks and weeks now, but they've never actually had a chance to show it. This is the time now against the Montreal Alouettes to bring that stuff out. As far as the running game goes, you can't give up on it if it's not working. You can't have them throwing 45 passes. You can't. And so what you alluded to earlier, I love, like, have Doege keep the ball a few times, have him pull on run looks, and have him pull and keep it around the edge. Keep those defensive ends from crashing and following after the ball carry. Even if it's only a 5 or 6 yard gain, that's fine. I'll take that. That's a great run play for Toronto this season. So use his legs is misleading because, again, he's not a runner, but he can move. And so that's what I want to see them bust out a little bit with. I want Doege to have 5 or 6 carries that aren't quarterback sneaks, plays where he's testing the contain of the defensive ends. Let's take a look at the injury report for this week. It's a short week and it's a bit murky. Only 2 days of practice for both the Alouettes and the Argos. For the Alouettes first, so Oakman and Lemon were both healthy scratches last week. That was odd to me. I'd be surprised if they don't dress this week, both former Toronto Argonauts. Davis Alexander is out. That I was surprised by. I felt like the way the Argos season has gone this year, wouldn't you know it, that Davis Alexander's return would be the game against the Argos, but no, he's out. So it is McLeod Bethel-Thompson, of course, playing the best football he's played in years, but it is him. Cole Speaker's available. He was out last week. Who else? There was Tyrell Richards, who was limited in practice with a shoulder injury. He's available. He will go. Guys that are out: Deontay Evans, Travis Tice, Daniel Dejo is out, and obviously Davis Alexander, like I said, is out for this week. On the Argos side, a little more clear. We talked about Nick Arbuckle being out. He didn't practice all week. Sage Dockstader, still trying to recover from that head injury, is out. Dylan Giffen remains out. Ryder Varga with the knee injury, didn't practice all week. He's out. Guys that are available, Spencer Brown is available. So he and McMahon will presumably be back in the backfield. Haralahu missed some time due to an illness this week, but he's available. Derek Sluka available. He practiced full last week. We'll have to wait and see if he gets the nod or not. I can't tell if he's fallen out of favor with coaches. I don't think so. Like, his play to me has been really good. I think they were just waiting for his ankle injury to fully recover so he didn't re-aggravate it like he has already this season. So I don't know if we'll see him back at safety. I like the combination of him at safety and Bratton at halfback. So that's what I'm hoping we see this week. But I guess they want to make sure that ankle's fully healthy. And Anthony Vandal, the guard, is available after going full today. So we'll see if he is active and maybe back into the starting lineup. So that's something to look forward to. What is your one thing for this week, JB? Where are you going with one thing? This actually, we've kind of been on fire a little bit lately with our one things.
Well, we have actually, yeah. It's been very successful, although I'll let people know I often do forget what my one thing is once the game happens. So
people remind us.
Not that I don't think about it deeply before I select it, but life is busy. My one thing today is we got to get that. Defense got to get those point totals down. Okay, so I'm looking for the Argos to keep the Alouettes under 25 points. I think that's a reasonable total. No more 42, 41. Arena football scores. Under 25 is what I would like the Argos to keep Montreal.
My one thing is winning the turnover battle, which maybe sounds irrelevant after losing the turnover battle last week, like 6-1 and winning the game. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. You can't get away with that more than once. I can't even believe that happened. You have to get back to basics. You've got a new quarterback playing. You have to play good fundamental football, and that starts with not turning the ball over. So you're going to create turnovers on the other side. You've got to avoid turning the ball over yourself. If the Argos win the turnover battle, I think they win this football game. All right, into Put Me Down for 20, JB. We struck out last week. We were both 0-2. I think we were both swinging for the fences after hitting big the week before, so maybe we got to be a little more conservative this week. I'm going with one of my plays, and one of them I'm just completely off the wall. We'll start with you, JB. What are you doing with your hard-earned fleeces? Actually, before I turn it over to you, JB, I just want to remind our listeners, don't take any of our betting advice seriously. We don't. We're both up on the year, but that is by fluke, not by brilliant strategy. JB, you're at 109.5 golden fleeces from your original 200. I'm at 253. Down 20 from last week after a rough one. Where are you going with your golden fleeces this week?
I'm going to try and get back on the right path here. The first one I like is Toronto, which is the juice for Toronto here. I like Toronto to win at home. I think this is a hugely important game for them. I think Montreal is still not 100% back. So I have Toronto at plus 240 to not just a home dog, but capital letters, all cap home dog. So yeah, I'll take that juice. Random book.
And where are you going
And
with your
my other
non-Argo?
one, I'm back to my overlove. Most hit last week, except of course mine. Thank you, Strebler, for nothing. But Hamilton, Edmonton. The book knows the book. The book wants a healthy investment for any juice worth a damn. But I will not be deterred. I have Hamilton, Edmonton over 64.5 plus 215.
That's so many points.
It's a lot of points, but I believe in both teams.
I got one similar bet. So I'm going to take the Argos on the money line plus 6.5 at even money. I just think that feels automatic to me. The Argos are getting no respect at home. And I like your bet at plus 240. I saved that for my second bet, which is a giant parlay. I'm putting my second set of 10 golden fleeces on the following parlay, JB. All 4 underdogs on the money line. Argos, Lions, Blue Bombers, Elks. If that hits, it pays plus 6,723,
Wow.
and I'm going on vacation, so that's my play for this week.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna try that next week.
Yeah, that's it. Again, there's no chance this is hitting, but I like the excitement of it. So that's my play for this week. And then into challenge flag, JB, you won last week. I challenged you. I liked all your picks, so I didn't know where to go there. The correct place to go would have been Montreal over Saskatchewan, because that's the only one you didn't get right. I challenged BC Ottawa. That was poor. So you went 3-1 on the week. You're 32-26 overall on the season, and you have brought it to within one game. I am up 8-7 over you going into week 16. So let's see your plays this week, JB. We open with Montreal at Toronto. Where are we going?
Yeah, I like Toronto. I like them at home. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
BC at Calgary.
I don't know what to make of the Stampeders. I certainly loved them earlier in the season. I'm gonna take them at home.
All right. And Winnipeg at your favorite Ottawa Redblacks.
The All Caps. I got my, I was off the Bombers, but I can't quit them, and I've got my Bombers over the All Caps.
Going back to Strevler after disappointing you. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I can't quit you, Strevler.
And finally, Edmonton at Hamilton.
And I'm going to take Hamilton here. I think Hamilton is a flawed but good team, and I think they can beat the Elks.
Yeah. All right. I could challenge. I can challenge a few of these. This is a tougher call. I like this. Unlike the last couple of weeks where you've had the same picks as me, you've picked all the favorites except Toronto, but I like the Argos in this game. I think I'm going to go with the BC Lions. I just think their offense is so dangerous that if they can get any manner of defensive play at all, create any turnovers, it's going to turn into something. So I think that's where I'm going to throw my challenge flag. I've got the Lions for this week. And if I lose it, we are back to square one at 8-8. Or maybe I pull away by 2. Lastly, before we wrap things up and get out of here, I want to congratulate our ticket winner for this week, Darren McGee. You have won 2 tickets to this Friday's game, courtesy of Something in the Water Brewing. So I will reach out to you, get in touch, and make sure that we get you those tickets for this Friday's affair. And you have to make it down to BMO Field this Friday. It's a Friday night game. It's a 7 o'clock start. This one is huge in the standings. The Argos are 1 game back of the Montreal Alouettes. Second place looks easier right now than the third place, because that's the third. It's so weird. Third place is a crossover, and right now, with the BC Lions playing as they are, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers playing as they are. Montreal, I know they won last week and looked great, but they've been sliding. I think you're after second place of the Toronto Argonauts, and so this is a huge game. If they want to get that done, they've got to win this Friday night at BMO Field. So make sure you were down there for 7 o'clock. Make sure you stop by Something in the Water Brewing beforehand for a few pregame beverages as well. That will just about do it for us on this pregame walkthrough episode of the X's and Argos podcast. For JB, this is Ben Grant saying so long, and may all your pre-snap reads be good ones. I'll see ya.